What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Battery Mates podcast. I'm the Sandman Sean. Over there is Dirty Dave. Give him a little wave, Dirty Dave.
What's up? How's it going?
Good, man. Good, man. How's your week been?
Man, we've been we've as baseball fans, we have had one heck of a week, haven't we? We've kind of been held at ransom for a week, it feels like, but the big domino's finally fallen, and so I can go back to living my normal life now, I feel like.
Oh yeah, man. No, I it's almost shameful the amount of times that I refresh Twitter and just was on it, living on it for the last few days. You know, everybody kind of talked about, we thought it was imminent, we thought it was coming, and then it wasn't, and then it was here, and it was this team, and then it was that team, and so we kind of did that whole thing back and forth for a couple of days, but that big domino fell, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I gotta say, we start off tonight talking about the moves that the Braves have made, and so haven't had any major earth-shattering moves. I haven't went out and got that frontline starter that I think both of us would say that we need to go get, but we did go out and get Jarred Kelenic from the Seattle Mariners. So before we get into all of the moves that we did, because there was a bunch of them, what do you think about him as a piece specifically? Because it's pretty apparent when you see the other moves that have happened that he was the piece AA was going to get. And the other pieces in that deal were kind of the, if you want Jarred, you're going to have to take these other deals and these other guys. And so what do you think about that move and kind of how he fits in and what that means, maybe for Vaughn Grissom and kind of that left field position for the Braves starting next year?
Yeah, it was definitely a move I didn't anticipate. It definitely was a move that really felt almost odd at first, because you kind of felt like you thought AA's first move, most teams' first move is their big move, right? Most of the time, the first move they make, they're waiting on one move to happen, then they start going into other moves. But not the case with the AA in 2023 offseason leading into 2024. He goes out and gets Jarred Kelenic, who had a resurgence last year. He was a solid contributor to a team that didn't meet expectations, didn't make the playoffs like they thought they would, but he really was a nice spot for them. He's a guy who I have his BREF page up right in front of me, and his first 2 years in the league, I mean, he was the definition of replacement level player. He was a bad hitter. In 2022, in 54 games, he batted 141, 141, OPS plus a 55. He was a bad player. But last year, 250 hitter, got on base at a 330 clip. He was above 100 in OPS plus, 109 there, hit a few home runs. When he got a hold of balls, he really got a hold of balls too. He has a lot of raw power. I like the addition. He is a lefty, so you look at him and Vaughn Grissom. Jarred's a lefty, Vaughn's a righty. You could see right now that you now have a platoon in left field of guys who are young. They want to prove themselves in this league. They both can probably combine for 15 home runs to add to your total. Hopefully both bat 250 plus. I think that it's a solid piece moving forward for sure. And the cost that they gave up was not much. I mean, Jackson Kowar, Braves legend for sure. I mean, we're going to remember his time in Atlanta forever. But it was time for him to go, I guess. But I like the move, man. I'm excited about left field for next year with those two young guys out there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that you look at though with Kelenic is the fact that, and I don't have it in front of me. Usually I'm really good about this. I don't have it in front of me. But if I remember right, he actually hit lefties at a higher average than he hit righties last year. Vaughn Grissom had an over 1,000 OPS in AAA last year. And so I think what you run into is both of those guys are guys that need to find a way in the lineup every day. Being young guys, AA has said Vaughn doesn't need to go down and do another, 1,000 OPS in Gwinnett. Kelenic is a really good defensive left fielder.
Mhm.
So you've got that going for him. And so I think I don't know that I don't think that you'll see a platoon. I don't think that we see a platoon. Both of those guys are guys that you're going to want to have in the lineup every day if you're going to use them that way. I don't think you see Vaughn Grissom as the infield utility guy, and I don't know how much good it does because what happens when one of them starts to slump in the platoon. You know, do you go to the other guy full time, and then now what has that done to the confidence of the guy that you went away from? So I think there's a lot of moving parts to that. I like the idea of Jared hitting in the 9 hole. When you put somebody behind him like Ronald Acuna Jr., he's going to get
The
opportunities
protection.
to hit the ball. Yes, right. And so I think you're going to see Seitzer has been an excellent hitting coach. You watched what he did to Matt Olson's strikeout numbers this
Mhm.
year. That's one of the things with Kalinick is he strikes out a lot, 33% of the time, or something insane, north of 30% K rate. And so, like you said, when he gets a hold of something, he gets a hold of it, and it goes a long way. But we got to get the strikeout numbers down. So
Right.
I could see Seitzer making some mechanical changes to Kalinick, and you plug him in that 9 hole, and I think he could be a 20-20 guy as far as from the 9 hole. If we get the strikeout numbers down, strikeouts come down, obviously the home runs are going to come up. I don't think it would be unrealistic for him to be a 20-20 guy. And if you can get something, close to that out of the 9 hole, um, that's a deep lineup. So I like the move. And that was just kind of the first domino that fell for all the moves for the Braves. So, and that whole deal was Cole Phillips and Jackson Kowar for Jared Kalinick, Marco Gonzalez, and Evan White. Just a couple days later, Gonzalez was flipped with cash considerations to Pittsburgh for a player to be named later. You had a couple of minor league deals that got signed. So you had Lurie Garcia got signed to an minor league deal, but with a spring training invite. So that's a good depth piece there. Then you had Angel Perdomo, a 1 year split, non guaranteed. He's in a situation like Murphy where he's injured, probably won't pitch in 24, but I think it's a good depth piece going into 25. And then turn around, we flipped Evan White and Tyler Thomas for Max Stassi and David Fletcher. And then just 24 hours later, we flipped Stassi plus cash considerations to the Chicago White Sox for a player to be named later. So flurry of moves, like I said, none of the big ones, not a starting pitcher like we kind of thought was going to be the first domino to fall, but AA has been active. And so you can't say that he's not making moves and trying to get those things. So for the guys that are still there out of those deals, we talked about Kalinick, David Fletcher, probably a utility guy, maybe that 26 guy, pretty expensive for that, but I think he can be what Nicky Lopez was last year if we do hang on to him. So any of those moves kind of stick out? Do you think AA did a good job of taking the contracts he needed to and then flipping those and try to not bury himself but still get the guy that he wanted?
Well, I mean, yeah, but they're also minor moves. I mean, it's really just, you're asking the White Sox to throw your garbage away instead of you having to do it yourself. I mean, players to be named later. I mean, I can't wait for 2026 when they give us a 30-year-old double A guy. I mean, it's, nothing excites me about this. It's just all names like, oh, I've heard that name before. That's an interesting one. Okay. And then you just go, okay, and you're on to the next one. I don't know if anything stood out to you, but it's just all stuff you have to do as a general manager of a baseball team. You have 7 levels of players that you have to keep track of, and sometimes you just have to make moves to make moves. And they're just cleaning up, trimming some fat off the end, and it's all fine. I trust AA. If AA is making the moves, I think they're good moves until I'm proven otherwise. And I still just sit around and wait for the big one to start going.
Oh yeah, and I think like you said, if you trust AA, you trust the fact that he saw something in Kalinick that was like, it's worth taking on this extra money for this kind of dead money that now we're gonna have to move around and play around with and send cash here and send cash there and all of that. So I think you trust AA and you say, okay, he saw something in Jared that thinks can be fixed and can be a productive player for us in left field. But there were some much bigger moves that were made around the league otherwise. Um, First, we had Verdugo and Soto going to the Yankees. So, what do you think about those two moves? How does that make the Yankees fit in out there in the American League? And do you like those moves? Do you think that do you think they gave up too much for Soto, knowing that he's possibly a 1 year rental?
I don't think Juan Soto is going to be a 1 year rental. I know he could be, but I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I don't think Yankees make that move without thinking they're going to keep Juan Soto. I mean, I don't understand how it took this long. The Yankees, the last 4 years, have had no lefties in their lineup for some reason, despite literally being known for having the short porch in right field. Guys, what are we talking about here? We took till now to get a Juan Soto. I mean, you had Anthony Rizzo as your only lefty in your lineup for most of the games last year. Verdugo, I think, is going to take off out in New York. He's got a lot of pop on his bat. And conversely, Boston is the opposite. They have that super deep right field. If you don't put it on the line, then it's that deep, deep cavern out there where you have to mangle a ball to get it out of the ballpark. So I think those two are going to fit in really well in New York. I like what they're doing there. If Rodon's healthy next year and doesn't act like the worst pitcher in baseball out of nowhere like he did this year, they should be a really scary team again. People forget that 2 years ago, I mean, they were number one seed in the AL most of the year. Now the Astros took it over once they faltered at the end. But, I mean, a couple years ago, there's a lot of pitching questions, and they were able to still be a very dominant team for a large portion of the season. I think they're going to be really good again next year. They're going to be one of my favorites to win the World Series, I think.
Yeah, I think what I want to see is, and the thing that I don't love when you take into account those two moves is that means Aaron Judge is your everyday center fielder.
Yes.
And I don't love that part of the deal. Judge hasn't been, you're counting on Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and guys that haven't stayed healthy. And now you're going to put Judge in center field. And so I think it will remain to be seen how that plays out if Judge is indeed the everyday center fielder. So I think, like I said, I kind of want to see how that shakes out. But I do agree. I think Verdugo and Soto make their offense substantially better. And I think they will be improved. Probably the favorites, definitely the favorites in the AL East, I think. Again, like you said, if Rodon is close to what he was before last year. And so if you get him and Garrett Cole as your 1-2 and they pitch well, then I think the Yankees can be scary next year. So I'm interested to see if they do in fact keep Soto after next year. Because he's going to go to free agency. I don't foresee him signing an extension before that. So we'll see what kind of deal he commands next year. I think he'll be the Shohei of this year, so to speak, when it comes to free agency next year. He's going to be the big marquee piece next year. So speaking of Shohei Ohtani, what do you have to say, Dave, about 10 years, $700 million?
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say about the Shohei Ohtani contract. And I know that we have opinions that are going to be fairly similar and also very hot takes. So I don't mean to spoil anything, but I want to preface by saying that I did a little bit of thinking about this, right? Because, it seems like an obscene amount of money, right? And then you have everyone on Twitter, by the way, not X. It's still I still stand by that. Twitter, who's like, but he's two superstars though. And I'm like, okay, great. So I did a little bit of looking, right? Do you know? So 70 $700 million over 10 years is $70 million a year AAV, right? Do you know how many starting pitchers in baseball make $35 million right now?
4.
You're very close. It's 5. It's 5.
I
So,
could name 4 of them. That's why I said I could name 4 of them.
well, you know what's funny is the fifth one is probably not. You're probably actually right because the fifth one's Steven Strasburg, who's technically still making $35 million. So you were technically right because he's done for. He's done so.
Right.
So he is the 5th highest paid pitcher in baseball. Is he the top 5 pitcher in baseball? You could make the argument for sure. Absolutely, you can make that argument. I wouldn't make that argument personally, but you could. So, are you paying $35 million for an ace? Okay, that seems like a pretty fair number. A little bit higher, but to get your guy, you get your guy. Do you know how many DHs make $35 million?
I'm gonna say none.
You're gonna be right. And if people aren't following, what I'm doing is I'm taking that $70 million, I'm cutting it in half. 35 for one, 35 for the other. I knew probably everyone figured that out, but I wanted to say it just to make sure anyone who was like, what is going on right now, knew what was going on. Okay, so no DHs make $35 million. Guess how many make $30 million?
Still probably none.
Guess how many make $25 million?
I'm still going to say none.
Guess how many make $20 million, Sean?
What is none?
Technically, it is none. Now, if you go to Spotrac, which I don't know how to pronounce that, SPOTRAC, the salary cap website, they list Nick Castellanos as a DH making $20 million. He's the only one who makes $20 million. You are $35 million seemed like a lot of money for a designated hitter. I'm just gonna say it. I mean, that seems like a really high amount. I'll be the one. I'll put my name on it. If you want to walk back a little bit on it, I won't blame you at all. I'm going to say it. Somehow the Los Angeles Dodgers have taken the greatest asset in the history of professional sports, and they've somehow vastly overpaid for him. I didn't think that would even be close to possible. I mean, if it would have been $600 million and I did the math, I think I would have been like, you might be able to make it make sense. Okay. $700 million does not make sense. That is a type of move where you're not just getting 2 superstars, you're overpaying for 2 superstars now. I mean, listen, I get there's no salary cap. I get they don't care about the luxury tax. I get all that. There's going to be a point where they're going to need something, and they're not going to be able to get it because they have to pay Shohei Ohtani $70 million. And also he's coming off Tommy John surgery. In a couple years, you may be paying $70 million for a designated hitter every single season. That makes 0 sense. So unless they find a way to start printing money or convince the MLB to not make them pay a luxury tax, this move doesn't make any sense. They vastly overpaid. They're going to regret it. I'm going to say it all right now.
So I agree with a lot of it. I definitely think it's an overpay. I'm not going to walk that back. I think they overpaid. And here is my reasoning for it. So I think I genuinely, even you hear these things where they're saying, okay, Shohei wanted to defer a bunch of his money. And so now he's deferring a bunch of it. And now they're talking that according to the luxury tax, he's probably going to be somewhere in the 40 to 50 million AAV. And so even if you go at 50 million, and you say that he's deferred $20 million a year, so 200 of the 700 million he's deferred. I think even at 50 million, it's an overpay for what he's going to be, because this isn't his first Tommy John surgery. So this is the second surgery he's had on his UCL. So, how is that going to age as far as pitching goes? How far into this deal does he decide, I just want to hit, or I just want to pitch? How far into this deal does he make that choice where he's like, I think I'm going to just focus on hitting? Then are they going to try to make him an outfielder that makes $70 million or $50 million a year? So I think I agree that he definitely was an overpay. Now it was an overpay. This is where I said most. This is my caveat. It was an overpay from a baseball perspective. It was the Dodgers are going to make more than $700 million off Shohei Ohtani. So when you look at the implications financially, as far as the, there's there's no options, there's no opt outs. So you've got a Japanese superstar for the next 10 years. Okay, so I think as far as that part of it goes, they probably at least break even in regards to the amount of money Shohei Ohtani is going to bring in. But from a baseball perspective, I read somewhere that your top paid player on your roster usually makes up about 17% of your payroll. And so even if you're at $210 million, which I think is right around where Atlanta was at last year, Shohei is 70 or 33% of your payroll. One player that's not going to pitch next year.
Yeah.
You don't get your superstar pitcher in the first year of this deal. So now you're paying 50, 60, 70 million, whatever it breaks out to when you take away the deferred money for a guy that's just going to DH. And again, like we said, who knows what his arm's going to be when he comes back? Who knows what it's going to be, in 2025 and beyond? This deal ends when he's 39. You're going to pay a 39-year-old pitcher in DH 70 million, 50 million? Like, it's an astronomical overpay as far as I'm concerned from a baseball perspective. And I think it is going to, like you said, hinder the Dodgers building a team around him moving forward long term. And maybe it doesn't hinder them in the next 2 to 3 years while they've got Freddie and they've got Mookie and they've got those guys. Okay, but I don't think, even with Shohei in the lineup, I don't think that they're the best lineup in the National League. They might have the best top three.
Can I be honest with you? I think if you put them in the National League East, they're probably the third best lineup.
Yeah, Atlanta and Philly are both better than the Dodgers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would, yeah. I mean, even with Ohtani, I mean, what does adding Ohtani make up the gap in runs and home runs that the Braves and Dodgers had last year? Absolutely not. And it's not like the Dodgers can go out and add 2 or 3 other bats now because it's just not going to happen. I mean, when you look at what they did last year,
they still have to find people to pitch.
That's
their pitching staff is in shambles.
I mean, Walker Buehler is coming back from missing like 2 full seasons. Julio Urias cannot stop getting himself in trouble off the field. He's done for. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he never pitches in the majors ever again. I don't think he should ever pitch in the majors ever again. He's a scumbag. Sorry if that offends anybody that he's making that opinion, but he's a scumbag. He's not going to be back. Tony Gonsolin, you're depending on Tony Gonsolin to be your guy. I mean, he's a mid pitcher. And Clayton Kershaw is about 65 years old. He's gone soon. Yes, you're going to replace.
He's a free agent.
You're going to even if you bring him back, that's true. Even if you bring Kershaw back, which you kind of have to, he was your best pitcher last year. In the year of our Lord, 2023, Clayton Kershaw was your best pitcher. He was 35 years old. Bobby Miller's good.
And he's awful in the playoffs.
Bobby Miller's good. Gonsolin, let's say he keeps pitching well. That's fine. You still have to find guys to pitch. And I surely wouldn't want to throw your 3rd, 4th, or 5th starter out against the Braves lineup in any capacity come playoff time. Forbid that anybody gets hurt or somebody can't go for a game or whatever it is. If you throw your 3rd, 4th, and 5th best pitchers against the Braves or the Phillies come October, the Dodgers are done for. Don't forget, the Dodgers couldn't win a game off the Diamondbacks this year with home field advantage. They got swept out of the playoffs. 1, 2, 3, you're out. I really don't think that one guy DHing is going to make the difference between the Dodgers being the 2nd best team all of last year, then falling flat on their face in the playoffs, and all of a sudden win the World Series. I just don't see it.
No, I agree. I agree completely. And on top of that, Mookie's going to second base full time.
Mm-hmm.
So Mookie's going to be the everyday second baseman. And it just, I don't, like you said, it doesn't make up the gap, and it handcuffs them on what they can do otherwise. So I think it's an overpay, which, like you said, I would have. I almost can't believe that I say that. Like, I almost can't
Right.
even believe that that's a thought with it being Shohei Ohtani. And maybe it wouldn't feel that way if he wasn't coming off the UCL surgery. Maybe it doesn't quite feel that way. But man, I just think I don't know. I think it's an overpay. I think it's a bad deal for the Dodgers, and I think at some point in the next 10 years they are going to regret it.
No, I totally agree. But again, this all comes down to, if you face the Dodgers in October, you still got to beat them. They're going to get there every year. But to me, I mean, I think the be all end all sentiment is I'm happy that the Braves didn't spend $70 million on Shohei Ohtani every season. Sure, it would have been fun to give Shohei Ohtani a 2-year, hundred and something $1 million contract. Be like, come on, you want to join the Braves for a couple of years? Let's just do it. But the talks of like, well, could they be a dark horse? I'm happy they didn't do it. I think that would have ruined this core that they've built. That I'd rather have the core than the one guy. So that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%, man. I when I saw it, I was like, I'm so glad that I the Braves just they didn't buy into that wasn't something that they were considering. And like you said, I mean, I think when you look at the core that we have locked up, and you think about the guys that are going to have to be re-signed in a few years, you know, last thing I'd want is $70 million AAV on the books for Shohei. Whenever, you know, what do you pay? Is Acuna going to, is he going to get $40 million a
Right.
year? When his deal's up. And yeah, I would much rather pay Acuna $40 million a year than Shohei 70. So I definitely think that it is a now look great for Shohei, and you know I don't necessarily know that it's a bad move for baseball in general, but I just think from a team perspective, I think the Dodgers will come back to regret that contract. So, a couple big moves. Dominoes have now fallen. Soto getting dealt. Otani coming off the board. The Mets have added a couple of players, and I think that they really are sticking to their guns on how they're wanting to build their team. They've added former friend of the program Michael Tonkin. To then they got Severino, Crick, Jose Iglesias, and they really are looking at 25 and beyond. So I'm not shocked that they weren't in. I was a little bit shocked, I think, at first that they weren't really in on Otani. They didn't try to, with Cohen and all that, they didn't try to throw the bag at Otani. But I think they learned their lesson last year in paying Verlander and Scherzer, that they were like, man, just going out and throwing blank checks at people isn't gonna get us anywhere. So, as far as overall movement in the league, were there any other deals, any other things that kind of stuck out to you before we get into our prospect of the week, our bet of the week, and then our fun little segment that we've got planned for the end of the episode?
I mean, just overall quick thoughts. First of all those guys you talked about for the Mets are mid MID. Capitalize all those letters. I mean, those are not deals I'm worried about as a Braves fan. My goodness. I mean, that is, you talk about 2025 and beyond, put emphasis on the beyond, because those didn't make any sense. No, I'm kind of shocked at the lack of movement. I know a lot of teams are waiting on Otani, but I thought once Otani signed, we'd start hearing deals. But, like, for example, like a team we talked about a couple weeks ago to watch out for was the Cubs. And the Cubs haven't done anything at all. You go out and get your A-plus manager, and then you don't get any pieces around him. I'm wondering what they're doing. The Braves have heard their name a few times, but again, a team that I'm like, you have a nice little core right here. You should go out and start getting some people. And They're not making very many moves. So I'm hoping by next time we record, we have a few fun little things to talk about. But as of right now, I'm ready to jump my prospect of the week if you're okay with that.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I think I will say this is my last little bit on the movement or lack thereof. There are a lot of players that I am shocked that I've heard nothing about. So not even specifically teams, but we've heard nothing about Blake Snell. We've heard nothing about Cody Bellinger. We've heard nothing about Marcus Stroman. There's a ton of these guys that we have just heard absolutely nothing about. And it's like nobody's linked to them, nothing, I think the only thing I've heard about any of those guys is something like Belly's won 250 million, but how true that is, right. I don't know. But like there's a lot of players that there's just not been anything linked to. And it feels like it feels like the people that were going to be in on Bellinger probably weren't in on Shohei anyway. And the people that are going to be, so that was kind of the thing that shocked me was that it really was, that Shohei kind of put everything on hold for the whole league. Whenever I was kind of shocked by that because I really thought, it was only going to be a handful of teams realistically in on Shohei, and the rest of the league was kind of going to do their thing anyway. So I think it was more so for me. It's the number of players that just have nothing linked to them yet. You just haven't heard anything about. But that's kind of the only thing that I've got. So why don't you tell us about your prospect of the week?
I will tell you about the number 3 prospect in the Braves system, Spencer Schwellenbach. He has been rocketing up people's prospect rankings. He sits right behind AJ Smith-Shawver and Hurston Waldrep. Pitcher. Probably not how you want to build an entire minor league system just on pitching. But Spencer Schwellenbach, if you need to play shortstop, he can because he's a 3-year starter at shortstop for his college team, which was Nebraska. Braves got him, and he transitioned to the mound in 2021. He's been pitching for the last couple years now. He did win the John Olerud Award in college as a best two-way player in college baseball. So he's been hitting, he's been pitching, he's doing a lot of different things. But he's a pitcher I'm really excited about. I think a lot of Braves fans and the Braves organization is really excited about Spencer Schwellenbach as well. He's got a really good fastball. He can maybe touch triple digits. Most people say he tops out at 99, but if you're topping out at 99 as a year-and-a-half pitcher, you might get to 100 eventually. So big fastball, soft slider, which is just goes up against that. Very tough to keep people on their toes. It's almost 15, 20 miles per hour difference between his top 2 pitches. So it's tough to time him up. He also has a nice changeup that kind of sits in between a little bit those 2 miles per hour, really keeping hitters guessing. So that timing's how he gets a lot of people. Now, the one negative is he has already had Tommy John surgery. We know that's not a death sentence for a pitcher anymore, though, luckily. He did come back in 2023, and he was really good in the Braves system. He pitched at the A and high A level. Between the two, he had a 2.49 ERA. Batters went 207 against him. And he's not walked a lot of guys. In 65 innings, he had 16 walks, compared that to 55 strikeouts. So Spencer Schwellenbach really the kind of guy who I think a lot of Braves fans are keeping their eye on, see how he does this year. He could really rise up the ranks. I wouldn't be shocked if he's hitting double in AAA this year. Probably only a couple of years away from being able to jump on the mound at age 23 for the major league team. And yeah, that's going to be my guy this week. Definitely somebody to look out for sure. He could be on the rise very quickly in this system.
Yeah, he is one of those guys that you look at and you say, okay, he has a legitimate shot to be in the rotation 2026 and beyond. You really kind of look at him and think this guy could be that 3, 4, 5 guy in our rotation. We lose Fried, we lose Morton. If we lose those guys, we're kind of like, okay, well, who's going to fill those slots? Who's going to fill those roles? And it's one of those things where like, hey, look, in 2026, you might see Bryce Elder, Hurston Waldrep, AJ Smith-Shawver, and Spencer Schwellenbach in the rotation in 2026. His fastball, like you said, is good. You know, he's a guy that fills the zone up, and it's very much a this is what I've got. If you can hit it, great. If not, I'm going to get you out. And so I'm excited for him. I'm ready to watch him and see what he does coming up in the next couple of seasons at the minor league level, and see if he does in fact make that break into the bigs in 2026 or somewhere in that area. So I guess that brings us to the Sandman's surefire bet of the week. And last week we didn't get the episode out because of the technical difficulties, but those of you, if you could have heard it and got it out, you guys could have tailed and won some money. Went my first UFC picks that I put on for the show, batted 1,000, hit that 4-leg parlay last week. So this time I'm going to use the UFC event next Saturday. So we have plenty of time to get this out there to people.
Technical issues be damned.
So my bet of the week. Yes. So hopefully this is out well before Saturday. But if not, we have plenty of time to get this out so that people, if you want to tail, you can tail. But again, this is not betting advice, not financial advice, not any of those things. If you have a problem, call the hotline.
But if you don't make the bets, I do, and I win the money, then I'm not giving you any. So, I mean, but we're not giving you any advice. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I would do if I was a betting man. But, Sean, what do we got?
Yeah. So going to the UFC event next weekend, putting in a 5-leg parlay this week. We're going to start out with Cody Garbrandt. He's a minus 205 favorite. Andre Touchy-Feely, that's his nickname, is Touchy. I love it because of his last name, Andre Touchy-Feely. It's fantastic. One of the best nicknames in MMA. He's a minus 175 favorite. Going to take him. Dustin Jacoby, minus 245. Bryce Mitchell stepped in on 10 days' notice, and he is still a minus 198 favorite, stepping in on 10 days' notice. So we're going to take Bryce Mitchell. And then in the main event, I'm actually taking the underdog to win the 170-pound title, Colby Covington. He's a plus 124 dog, so not a big dog, but he is a dog nonetheless. So those 5 together give you plus 1,009 odds. So $10 pays out $110.99. So if, again, not betting advice, have a problem, call the hotline. But we're taking Cody Garbrandt, Andre Feely, Dustin Jacoby, Bryce Mitchell, and Colby Covington for the 5-leg Sandman Surefire bet of the week.
Wow, okay. Who's Colby against in the main event?
Leon Edwards.
Okay, that should be a good
Leon Edwards, who knocked out Kamaru Usman with one of the best head kicks that I have ever seen to win the title.
That's a reminder why I watch and don't participate in mixed martial arts. Yeah, no, those feel good.
Absolutely. So should be a good fight. So, Dave, do you want to tell everybody what we have planned over the next 3 weeks or so for the finishing segment?
Yes, sir, week. I would love to. So, Sean and I are doing an Atlanta Braves fantasy draft. We are going to draft lineups, rotations, bullpens, everything for a 26-man roster of only Braves players. And this is only players from their time with the Braves. Catcher, first baseman, second baseman, third, short. 3 outfield positions. We're not going to be going left, center, right, just outfields. 5 starting pitchers. And I don't remember off the top of my head how many bench and bullpen spots. We fill out a 26-man roster. We'll figure it. We'll tell you later on. If you remember, Sean, you can jump in really quick and tell me.
Yeah, so I think it is 8 bullpen and 4 bench. I think it's 13 position, 13 pitchers, I think is the way that we broke it down. So
perfect. So we're going to be doing it snake style. So one of us get the first pick. Next person will go second, third, go back 4, 5, onward. And again, this is only from their time with the Braves. So if there's somebody, like Felix Hernandez was signed to the Braves for like a day, right? Felix Hernandez, you're not going to want to pick Felix Hernandez in this draft. You might want to take a guy who spent 20 years with the Braves but wasn't great because he might be better contributor than somebody who spent 3 years with the Braves and was really good. I don't know if there's anything else we specifically need to mention. I think those are the big points that we're going off here. We're going to start with our lineups today. So we're going to do the starters, catcher, infield, outfield, and designated hitter. We are putting a DH. It's 2023. Everyone should have a DH. I support designated hitter. I don't know if you support designated hitter, Sean.
Well, I guess it depends on which pitcher is hitting, because there I have some memories, man. One of my favorite memories as a Braves fan was when Max Fried hit a walk-off in extra innings, and you're just like, you don't see something like we pinch hit for a guy with Max Fried, and Max Fried got a hit, and you like walked it off. So that's fun, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to watch those guys take 3 at bats and all of that, and it gives some more flexibility with the bullpen and stuff. You're not constantly double switching, and so I am pro DH. At first I wasn't, but now that we've had a couple of years of straight DH, I think it was the right move.
Cool. So we're a pro DH podcast. So I don't know. I was looking around really quickly. I don't have a coin or anything like that, Sean. Did you have a preference? Did you want to go first, or did you want the 2 and 3 spot in the draft? Oh, last thing I want to mention while Sean's getting that, this is the entire Braves history. Milwaukee, Boston, whatever it might be. If there is a if they play for a team that eventually becomes the Atlanta Braves, they're good to go. So you have a coin, Sean.
All right. So I've got a coin. All right. It's a nickel. So we've got heads, tails. Okay. I'm going to flip it. You call it. I'm going to do my best to keep it in the frame the whole time. You. So, yeah. So I've got it here.
All
right. So here we go.
Tails never fails, baby. Well, tails failed.
It is heads.
Okay, well.
So I you know what, Dave? I'm going to give you the first pick.
That's so nice of you. Thank you for that. I really wanted the number 1 pick because I feel like there's one specific guy who's just head and shoulders over everybody else. So I'll take Mr. Henry Aaron to start off our draft today.
And I figured that was the direction that you were going to go. So I, at number 2, am going to take Larry Wayne Jones Jr., chipper, number 2. So I have chipper, so third base is covered. Let's go. Just because all right, I'm going to do it. Ronald Acuna Jr.
It's a good pick. It's a really good pick. Good pick on Acuna there. I am going to make sure that you cannot steal my DH, so I'm going to go DH with my second pick. But I feel like I can't miss out on Eddie Matthews. So I'm going to take him as my my second pick here. And then I'm going to go I got a couple guys I'm thinking of here. I'm going to go with let's do Freddie Freeman for this other pick here. I'm going to take him in my first baseman.
Ooh. All right. So I am going to, with my next 2 picks, my 3rd and 4th overall for myself, I'm going to finish my outfield.
I knew you were going to do this.
And I'm going to take Andrew Jones and Dale Murphy.
Yep. I was between Andrew and Freddie, and I was like, well, I can get Murphy if he takes Andrew. And so now I'm screwed. um, okay. So let's see here. I'm going to. This might be a bit of a reach, but you know how I feel about this guy, and I feel like there's a pretty substantial drop off. Well, no, not really. Um, all right, I'm going to go Javi Lopez as my catcher.
Oh,
And then I feel like there's a position that's really weak position right now, and that's shortstop. So I'm going to take Rafael Furcal as my shortstop.
no. Both of them, man.
Now you know
Both
how I
of
feel. You
them.
want to trade? I'll trade.
Oh,
We'll talk trades
man.
later on. We'll talk trades.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk with. Okay, so. All right, so my next pick is going to be first base, and I'm going to take the crime dog,
Good
Fred
pick.
McGriff, for my
Good
first baseman.
pick. I had 3 first basemen listed, and he was my number 2.
Me too. Me too. I had 3, and he was 2 for me also. So now I think and kind of like you did with shortstop, I think there's a position that is a little bit weak. Man. Okay, actually, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to take my DH because I don't think this guy makes it another trip through because based on your needs, and my DH is going to be David Justice.
I can't believe you've done this to me. I truly cannot believe you've done this to me. Okay, well, I have 3 picks left. 2 of them have to be outfielders, and 1 of them has to be second base. And you can't take any more outfielders, so I have to go second base first. I am going to take Ozzy Albies as my second baseman, which might be a bit of a. What'd you say?
Well, that was the position that I was just talking about that I thought was weak, that might warrant a reach. But then I opted for David Justice instead. But Ozzy was the guy that I was looking at there too. So I like that pick. I'm going to say no that it was a reach. I just think it's a weaker position. So options were limited, and that was one of them that both of us needed still.
Yeah. And then for my first outfielder that I have to grab, I am going to take. Oh, this one's rough, man. This one's rough. I'm going to go. Jason Hayward.
All right. So I need a catcher, a second base, and a shortstop. So it's really kind of irrelevant what order I take them now. But I think I am going to go with second base, and I'm going to take Marcus Giles.
Correct.
So Marcus Giles as my second baseman. And we're going to go with catcher. And this might be shocking. I don't know, maybe not. I think there's really only 2 other options besides Javi at catcher. And I am going to take Brian McCann.
That's the right one. Okay. Oh, boy. All right. I am having to go deep into my bag of knowledge for this one. This will be, I believe, this is my last pick. Then, correct?
You should have.
What am I missing? You're right. I should have two, shouldn't I?
You should have 2 left. Yep.
What position did I not draft? Oh,
Third base.
I didn't need to DH Eddie Matthews.
'Cause you took-
He's my third baseman. Okay. I only said that because you already took third base, so I was like, well, I got to get a DH then, don't I? Okay. So I need an outfielder and a DH. Don't mind me. Should I make excuses? I'm not gonna make any excuses. I'm just a dummy. Okay, so I'm gonna go deep into the bag for these guys. I'm going to take for the outfield Wally Burger, and for my DH. Now that I have a DH position, I'm going to take that other first baseman, and I'm going to put Matt Olson in that DH spot.
Ooh. You know who I'm really shocked that you didn't grab?
Probably the shortstop you're about to take.
Oh. No. No, I was talking with the 2 picks that you just had. So, an outfielder that I thought might have hit your. You might have hit your. Just I know the way your mind thinks, the baseball mind. Somebody that might have flown under the radar a little bit. I really thought that you might consider Ryan Klesko.
Yeah, I did. I also actually considered, even though he only played like 1.5 seasons, I thought about Gary Sheffield.
Yep. And then I really was kind of shocked that you didn't keep Matthews at DH and take Riley for third base. When you look at Riley's body of work over Olson, I think full body of work, Riley and Olson. I get why you went with Olson for DH, but I kind of, when you were like, oh, I need a third baseman, I thought you were going to go Riley. So, all right, I guess this makes it the last pick.
Bring
of the
us
draft,
home,
correct?
man. What you got?
And I've got shortstop. So I've got 2 shortstops written down right now, besides for call. Do you got any guesses at who the 2 are?
I might guess that one might be Dansby Swanson.
Okay,
that's and one. You know what? I had a different name written down earlier. If I went back into my list here, I bet I would figure it out. Let's see. No, you're gonna have to tell me. Are you taking Dansby? Or are you taking this other guy?
I think I'm going to take Dansby, but this is a lot closer than I think a lot of people would think that it would be. But the other guy I had written down was Jeff Blauser.
That was the other guy I had written down too. Yep, Jeff Blauser. He could hit the ball, man. Jeff Blauser with a nice hitting shortstop, man.
Yeah, he was obviously not Dansby's a wizard defensively, so you know that's a whole nother aspect to it. But I'm going to take Dansby, but Blauser was definitely high on my consideration list. But I will say there are a lot of guys out there that could be worthy of some bench positions. Yes. So that's going to be interesting when we do next week. We're going to do the starting rotation and our 4 bench position players. So we'll get 5 starters, 4 bench position players. And then that will leave our final week will be our 8 bullpen arms. So how do you feel about your team? Was there people you missed out on that you were shocked you missed out on? How do you feel about the starting 9?
Henry Aaron, I'm happy. No, I mean honestly, I got the 2 top guys on my board, so I'm very happy with my team so far. I think there's a couple positions I reached on a little bit, specifically Ozzie and for Colin Javi, but they're guys who I was like, probably can't get much better at this position, and I like these guys. So personally, I like my team. Now, when we get to it, who are we gonna, who are the fans gonna say that has a better team? We'll wait and see. I will say you're trying to get your revenge because I did win that jersey draft off of you, so I know you got a little chip on your shoulder this time around. I don't know if you wanted me to bring it up, but I did see the final poll results on that one.
Yeah, and I think I want to know here in just a second. You can tell me. I want to know who your second guy was because I'm really shocked. I guess was it Matthews?
Oh, yeah.
Was Matthews your number 2? Oh, you had Hank and Eddie. Okay, I didn't know if you would put Eddie over Chipper, just for totality of the career and whatnot. So was curious about that, but honestly, I deferred because I felt like going 2 and 3, I knew he was going to go 1. So it just took that out of my head, and I had run of the pick as far as that goes. Some people might say that I reached on Acuna at 3. I mean, 3 overall, 2 for me. But I just think, when you really look at it, I do think that I probably handcuffed you a little bit with my 3 and 4 when I took Andrew and Murphy.
I was curious. When you said based on your needs, I said, well, there goes Dale and Andrew. Man, oh, man. And, I mean, when we talk about outfields, you have the 3 best outfielders in Braves history. Well, no, I'm sorry, the 2 through 4. I have Hank, and you have 2 through 4 for sure. And there's a pretty strong. I mean, I'm pulling out Wally Burger. So, if that doesn't show you about where you the spot you put me into, I don't know what else will. But no, I think it's pretty solid starts.
Well, and then I definitely I think I really kind of nail in the outfield coffin whenever I took DJ for my DH. So then all of a sudden Acuna, Andrew, Murphy, and DJ.
Yeah, you got 2 through 5 of the best outfielders for sure. I'm pulling out Jason Hayward, who spent 5 years in Atlanta and was like, So, but no, I like my team. I think I'm off to a pretty solid start here. I think that pitching's kind of where I do most of my damage. So we will see how that goes moving forward. I'm more of a pitcher guy when it comes to drafting.
Yeah, and I think there's so many arms that can be drafted, and so I think the pitching and I think that side of it's gonna be pretty interesting. And then we got some good options for the bench as well. So I don't think that outside of you having to reach deep in the bag for outfield, I don't necessarily think that there were any of them that were really surprising picks on either side. So I think we both got pretty good squads. I'm happy with them. So, man, if I've got nothing else, if you've got nothing else, rather.
Yes, I can most certainly do that. And because we didn't do the housekeeping at the beginning of the show, I'm going to do it at the end of the show. Don't forget, if you followed us this far, to give us a follow, subscribe on Spotify, give us a follow on YouTube, subscribe over there as well. Give us a follow on Facebook, on Twitter/X, just Twitter if you're me. And let us know what you want to hear about next. We are constantly cooking up new things for the people. This show is for the people. So for Mr. Sandman Sean over there, I am Dirty Dave, and we will catch you on the next one.